Chanan Tigay. He's a professor at San Francisco University, and he's covered the Palestine-Israeli conflict for Agence France Press, and he's the author of the forthcoming book, Unholy Scriptures, Fraud, Suicide, Scandal, and the Bible That Rocked the Holy City. Chanan Tigay.
You want to email this one to your mom. You know?
I'm feeling overdressed. So I'm going to read a little bit. From a novel I'm writing. So apologies to those of you who've heard this before. I know a couple of you had. I was thinking to myself, it can't be all the same people unless 50% of you were here last time. Anyway, I think it's better the second time, like leftovers. So this is based on my first job as a reporter right out of college for the what I'm fairly sure is the worst newspaper in America. And the book is called The Philadelphia Daily Pogrom. The world's slowest car chase, which concluded in my semi-public disrobing at the tip of an ill-tempered Slav switchblade, began early Christmas morning. Like our very birth as mammals, the pursuit unfolded sluggishly and culminated in a wash of bodily fluids. It further gave rise to the notion that it was high time, right then and there, for me to ditch the shit heap I was driving and find a new job. And this was like 10 hours before Shana told me she was pregnant. The chase, such as it was, began in the rearview mirror of the Philadelphia Jewish Tribune's '92 Dodge Caravan, in whose coil-exposed driver's seat I, the paper's chief, read-only staff reporter, sat wondering, as ever, how it could be that I was blowing yet another Sunday morning, delivering newspapers from behind the wheel of this uninsurable death trap. What is it they say about a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil and next thing a hurricane's pounding in off the coast of Florida? So my story's like that. Except that it started not in Florida, but in Philadelphia. And it wasn't about a hurricane so much as shit hitting a fan. And it wasn't a butterfly's wings that got things moving, but yet another improbably early phone call from Jack Moskoff, my boss, editor and publisher of the Tribune, Philadelphia's only avowedly right-wing Jewish paper. Rise and shine, Nevins, at 7 a.m. in the morning, he said. He placed the call from his car, and I could make out the ambient hiss of dangerous driving in the background. I groaned and said, just 7 a.m., no need for in the morning. As a result of his upbringing, Jack was grammatically and linguistically, not to mention politically, impaired. His late father was the marginally noted linguist H.L. Moskoff, creator of Uniphonia, an early and short-lived competitor of Esperanto's for the title of world's most popular constructed international language. Until Jack turned 16 and bolted, lying about his age to enlist in the Korean conflict, H.L. had insisted he be homeschooled exclusively in Uniphonia. As a consequence, Moskoff did not really learn English until boot camp. Right, Jack said now. No in the morning. Make a note of it. Then he told me that Zissy, the regular delivery girl, had a little too much drink or smoke, or had huffed a bissel too much crazy glue the previous evening and needed to sleep it off. Since you're already working today, he said, I've been assigned to cover the Jewish Philanthropic Network's Don't Forget Darfur lunch that afternoon. All you gotta do is do the downtown loop. Chick-chock, he said. When you're done, you'll drop in on the lunch. Shana, my fiancée, rolled over next to me in bed and yawned. Her breath was horrible. It's Sunday, I said. Shana and I had plans to go to Longwood Gardens this morning. Her mother thinks we might want to do the wedding there. When are you getting married again? Not exactly sure yet, I said. About a year. Oh, so you got time, he said. Shana leaned over me, her long brown hair mingling with my shoulder tufts, and whispered into my ear, say no. Look, Jack said, I don't know anyone at Longwoods, but if you want to do an outdoor type of thing, I can talk to my guy at Parks and Rec. Thanks a lot, Jack. I'll mention. Okay, so look, pop over to the Jewish Philanthropic Network, I said. Yeah, you got it. Good. Simple. Just do 500 words, he said. But it's a good place to meet a lot of players. Players in the Moskoff lexicon were wealthy Jews who could, sooner or later, usually sooner, be hit up for cash to plug the hemorrhaging dikes in the Tribune's financial model, which was characterized in large part by the absence of a financial model. I want you to do a profile on Milt Lazar. You'll have an opportunity to see him in action today. In action was a bit of a misnomer. Milt Lazar was a wheelchair-bound octogenarian. His only grandson was dating a Burmese man, and so Moskoff reasoned was most probably out of the will. Which is where Moskoff hoped Moskoff would come in. After oiling up Milt with an extremely flattering profile, tribune profiles of the well-off were always flattering, Moskow would try to pry the old man's wallet loose with dire prognostications about the future of Philadelphia's Jewish community, if the only paper in town still willing to really get behind the Iraq War were to fold. Head over to their lunch and just observe the czar, Moskow said. You go to the gardens later this week. I'll give you some time off Wednesday or Thursday. All right, I said. Shana heard in the way my voice dropped that I'd caved and pounded her fist into the bed. Another Sunday ruined. They'll give you a nice chicken lunch, Moskow said. And you can bring that voluptuous girlfriend of yours too. I'll let them know you're both coming. Voluptuous. No M. Make a note, he said. I hadn't even hung up when Shana said, did he mention my breasts again? He did, right? I didn't answer. What's voluptuous, she said. Mildazar's colostomy bag? Voluptuous, with an M, I said. I gave her a please don't blame me arm squeeze, but she swatted my hand. Then she leaned over the nightstand and checked her watch. Jesus, why do you let this prick do this? She was right. I should have just told him no, I don't work on Sundays. You haven't paid me in 4 weeks. But I found saying no difficult. Always had. For who was I but the 26-year-old child of a rabbi, my dear dead father, and another rabbi, my beautiful mother, whose feuding synagogues were, after the divorce, the playing field upon which my young life unfolded. A child for whom the simple question, where are you going to pray this Saturday, had no simple answer. For whom the least damaging answer to the majority of questions was no answer at all. And sadly, I owed Moskow. I'd left him in a lurch a little while back when I decided that my career would be better served reporting out of Israel. I hadn't exactly given him 2 weeks' notice before taking off. Then my dad died and I had to rush home, and Jack gave me my job back, no questions asked, and extended a small raise, which was just like him. Isaac Jack Moskow. Pat Buchanan without the brains. Tucker Carlson without the bow tie. Punch Salzburger without the liberal tendencies and the reputable paper. The lone American newspaper man to have missed September 11th. The concerned citizen who spearheaded a grassroots campaign to rework Philadelphia's slogan from the too gay city of brotherly love to the acceptably anodyne the city that loves you back, and accidentally succeeded. Head man of the Philadelphia Jewish Tribune, whose 19-year tenure of ignominy, shoddy reporting, lamentable production value, questionable ethical standards, creative accounting, waylaid reimbursements, and diminishing circulation did nothing to temper his insatiable appetite for my time, which was at the moment making life terribly, terribly unpleasant. I want to go to the Philanthropic Network lunch, I told Shana. It's a good opportunity to meet some players who can help me when I leave the paper. Soon. Bullshit, she said. You keep saying soon. Jack invited you to the lunch too, I said. Mom thinks you're having second thoughts. I've got a plan, I said. Give me a month, please. In truth, I had no plan. But I had a plan to have a plan. The phone rang. Shana threw off the covers and banged out of the room. Hello, I said. Yeah, Eli, good. Moskow again. One more thing. Save a pile of papers and bring them over to the lunch. Leave them inside the hotel lobby, somewhere people can see them. I could hear the steady pace of my beloved urinating with the bathroom door half open. Okay, I said. Will do. I hung up, headed into the bathroom, and took my toothbrush from the medicine cabinet. Your penis looks very small this morning, Shana said. That's how all the kids are wearing them, I said. Shana chewed her lip, trying not to smile. I stuck the toothbrush in my mouth and went into the kitchen to make coffee. White space. Sing muse of the veggie egg roll, siren of the pan-seared tuna kebab. Sing of citrusy salsas and veal shanks, of free dinners past and of salmon, so pink and yummy and high in omega-3 fatty acids. Sing muse of the United Jewish Appeal and the United Jewish Communities in the United States of Jumerica, and of the Anti-Defamation League and of the Akiba Hebrew Academy and its annual Hanukkah Galalaka lunch. And let's not forget NJSB, the Association for Immigrant Aid for the Displaced Peoples of Russia, Ukraine, and the former Baltic states. Never forget muse. But mostly, sing of the asparagus bunches cinched together with a sautéed scallion, the mound of orgasmic garlic-glinted mashed potatoes piled heavenward, the lemon-crusted tilapia fit for a pescatarian god, the mixed greens drizzled in a light balsamic vinaigrette and roasted fig salad topped with mascarpone, that according to the outsized menu posted at the entrance to the Jewish Philanthropic Network's luncheon that day, would be the stuff of our afternoon repast. A pair of old cougars pored over the carte du jour with Talmudic intensity, IDing those items that could be conveniently stashed in a purse, as I swiped the yarmulke from the box by the synagogue sanctuary and headed to my table. As Ted Marmelstein, executive co-chairman of the Philanthropic Network, took to the podium to expound on his theory that Jewish communal ties knew no worldly boundaries. I hadn't yet eaten, and I'd heard his shtick before, so I sat noshing, trying to tune out what was going on around me at his latest of the venerable new institutions near monthly meals and snacks, legislative breakfasts, award luncheons, gala dinners, debates, and desserts, and wondering, as I so often had since returning to Philadelphia the year before, how in God's name did I get here? I'd attended these repasts now 12 months running, and they were boring me near suicidal. Although I'll concede the elegant meals were feeding this intrepid, insolvent reporter at a level several notches up from the Captain Crunch dinners that had been the mainstay of his diet in prior days. Would only that the dystopic children of Darfur ate half so well as these philanthropists gathered to bemoan their plight, and half so well as I. Marmelstein spoke without notes. He'd been on a visit to Ukraine, he said, along with a group of wealthy donors interested in philanthropizing a new community center in Kiev, complete with a kosher soup kitchen, synagogue, and ritual bathhouse. They toured the city from the Brodsky Synagogue, the Bevy Yard, the statue of Shalom Aleichem standing proud just blocks from the home in which Golda Meir was born. During some downtime, he'd taken a stroll with a friend along the banks of the Dnieper River. As they discussed the relative merits of nursing a resurgent Jewish community in the former Soviet Union back to health versus simply encouraging mass immigration to Israel, an itinerant musician approached, worn-out accordion strapped to his broad post-Soviet shoulders. So this guy must have been 6 feet tall, no teeth, a bit frightening looking, frankly, comes up to us, right up in our faces, and starts playing some Ukrainian folk song, Marmelstein said. Ya-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and so forth, and I'm a little scared. God knows what this guy could do to the two of us here, alone by a freezing river. So I say to Harry in Yiddish, throw the guy a couple bucks and let's hightail it out of here. But I don't think I've ever seen someone smile so big as the accordion player did just then. He stops playing, slaps me on the shoulder, and says, in Yiddish, "You're a Jew? Me too." And he launches into this rousing rendition of Hava Nagila. Harry and I put our hands on each other's shoulders, circle up with this guy whose name turns out to be Yaakov Stern, and we danced till he stopped singing. It felt like half an hour. We're all out of breath, a bunch of old guys dancing in the cold, but we embrace each other there, because we're all brothers, we're all from half a world apart, this big, filthy, toothless Ukrainian and us, but we're all Jews. The entire audience laughed heartily and applauded. Now let's everyone here turn to the person to their right and give him a nice hug, why don't you, Marmelstein said, which everyone did, and within seconds the audience had broken spontaneously into its own rendition of Hava Nagila. Hug thy neighbor, Marmelstein shouted over the din of Hebrew song and hollow clops on the back, and the Lord said, let them be tight. But the guy seated to his right on the dais wasn't singing, and when the philanthropist hugged him, he patted him stiffly on the back. Michael Allen Weiss, who at 24 was already a best-selling novelist and author of the profoundly moving memoir, Word to the Weiss, My First 24 Years, had been the featured member of that afternoon's panel. He said, taking the microphone once the singing and dancing had ebbed. I've got to be totally honest here. That embrace with the Ukrainian busker, it really makes me anxious. I know it feels good to some of you to be part of something larger than just this lunch or this community, he said, getting to his feet, pacing along the stage, vaguely out of breath. But what do you really have in common with that musician in Kiev? That you both know Hava Nagila? The janitor of my building, his name is Rocky Karanovich, he's Croatian. Rocky and I both know the words to Hey Jude. What's that prove? The guy still takes 3 weeks to fix the leak in my tub. What I find amazing is not how many people were, figuratively at least, involved in that embrace. What's amazing is how many people were excluded. The audience quieted down and really seemed to be reveling in the robust give and take. As for me, I was out of the Baron de Rothschild Pinot, and the waiter hadn't been by in nearly 10 minutes. I was thirsty, my hands unsteady. An eyelash fell loose from my lid and landed on the inner edge of my glasses. Closing my eyes, I made a wish. Sing, muse of the totally passable kosher wine, flash boiled to perfection. Kindly fill a brother's glass. When I opened my eyes, Milt Lazar was right up in my grill. Here I am, he said. It must have come true. He touched me gently on the inside of my thigh and giggled. Lazar was a sweet man, though he very easily could have been jaded. He'd survived the Holocaust hiding in a Polish farmer's potato shed. Not only that, his grandson was the noted Judaic apparel supermodel Miles Lazar, who could be seen that month modeling the latest rainbow-colored prayer shawl on the cover of Hadassah magazine. Milt had come to terms with his spawn's gayness, but the fact that Miles was dating a Gentile, a Burmese boy no less, this was unconscionable. What do you think, he said, tilting his head toward the stage. Very interesting, I said. Really? Or are you bullshitting me so I'll say yes to an interview? He said. A little of both, I said. Me, I think their argument highlights the difference between today's kids and the older generation, Mill said. I, for example, was very moved by the story, even though I despise the accordion and wish Marvelstein a lifetime of untreatable shingles. But I'll bet you whatever I've got in my wallet, which is probably a shekel or two more than you got in yours, that you agree with the kid. He was right, of course, but I didn't want to argue. Not with Mildazar, and not on matters of ethnic pride. He'd made his fortune in real estate, putting up a series of prefab housing blocks along the city's waterfront. But he'd made his name as a community big, single-handedly fighting and defeating Mattel, when he felt the international toy conglomerate had insulted Israel. In the early 90s, Milt's great-grandnephew had received as a birthday gift an action figure from the popular new cartoon series known as the Ethnic Wrestling Federation. Mattel had taken heat from the ACLU, the NAACP, and the National Association of Hispanic People for a toy line deemed altogether too white, and it bounced back with these ethnically, sexually, and racially diverse rubber wrestling dolls. There was the Haitian horror, the Italian wise guy, and here's what pinched Milt's prostate, the Israeli occupier. Each figure had an ethnically appropriate shtick. The Chinese nunchuck was a kung fu specialist with secret ninja powers. The Russian mole carried a poison-tipped umbrella. And the Israeli occupier never actually fought his opponents. Instead, he tracked down their families and bulldozed their homes. Using his own money, Milt had launched a media blitz against the toy people, taking out full-page ads in the Wall Street Journal, the International Herald Tribune, and the Philadelphia Inquirer, calling the company anti-Israel and anti-Semitic and demanding that the occupier be recalled from shelves and replaced with a more politically sensitive doll. After initial resistance that landed the controversy on PBS Frontline and The Daily Show, Mattel gave in, replacing the occupier with the Israeli commando, a rodent-like man who froze his opponents with quick hardening hummus. So I'm your quarry tonight, eh? Milt said now. It looks that way, I smiled. Is Moskoff trying to extort money from me? Probably, sir, I said. It'll be a positive story then. You can count on it, I said. Say, you're not bad to look at, he said. Thank you, sir. That's what my mother tells me. Despite the hair, he said. And you must be Jewish, eh? A young reporter at the Tribune? Born and bred, I said. And you what, 24, 25? 26, I said, almost 27. What's your father do, son? Not much, I said. He looked me in the eyes now. I'll do the interview on one condition. Sir, one day with my grandson, Miles. Thanks.